Hello everyone to all the Oscars, where I watch every goddamn movie that was nominated for Best Picture throughout every year, and we are coming up on the end of the 2017 movies, and we are off the webcam, finally. I was kind of just enjoying the webcam stuff, but not the point. I just watched Manchester by the Sea, which was nominated for Best Picture, and on top of that, Casey Affleck won Best Actor for this movie. And from what I've seen of the movie so far, of course I haven't seen every movie that came out in the year 2016, but as far as the actors who I've seen, I think he's a pretty worthy winner of that. But not the point. Manchester by the Sea follows Casey Affleck, and I'm just gonna run it through like how the movie like started. And this movie opened off in one of the best movie openings I've ever seen, which was pretty much just Casey Affleck working. We saw him just kind of go through a day in the life. It was great. He's a handyman at an apartment complex, and is a completely like distant, antisocial, like just fuck you, I don't want to be here guy, and he's like that throughout the entire movie. You would think that's not really a character that's interesting, but I think that's a scenario everyone can relate to, where you're just like, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to be here, and just very distant and cold, but it's still morally like not against the other person all the time. Although he can be loud and brash, like kind of everyone from this family, where in this movie, he at the end of the day is kind of just like, I understand, but if you piss me off enough, I will be like, fuck you. And he gets heckled by his boss, even though he's doing as good as he can. People are just being a dick to him because people are a dick to handymen like that. They blame him for all of their problems, and so on and so forth. And one moment. And soon we get flashbacks. We get flashbacks of when he was younger, and we see, oh, him and this little boy have a unique relationship. We are shown that he was a good husband. He had family, he had kids. He had a struggling life back then, but he seemed happy. He was a drunk. He was kind of just your typical, I'm not a bad guy, but I am just living a certain lifestyle that isn't ideal. I'm poor, and I am trying to live with my poor family as we're aspiring to do day-to-day life. So not a bad character by any means. And then after we get flashbacks, we go into the thick of this movie, which is he gets a call that his brother, who we find out through another flashback, has a weird heart condition where the muscles of his heart are just fucking up, and he then goes through a unique funeral process when his brother eventually does die, and his son, he basically has to raise his nephew, but it's very unclear what's going to happen to him. This whole movie is about the relationship. The nephew is kind of a douche. It's clear that he's just like young and rash and makes bad decisions, but he's rash, like, he obviously cares about his dad, but at the same time, he's not being impacted by his death in the most healthy way. Like, during the funeral, he's on his phone. He doesn't grow that much as a character. That can kind of be a spoiler, but I'll get into spoilers here in a minute. And there are some other unique characters, like his ex-wife. We get flashbacks of his past that are like very hard hitting, and some other great supporting characters. Just some of the local friends, I guess. This movie is really just about these main characters, which is fine. Um, so, just quick thoughts. Manchester by Sea was a great movie. It does a lot of great things. The directing is actually like very. I like the pacing because this isn't. When people write movies, sometimes they gotta say everything in the script. But this is a movie that was obviously like, oh no, I'm not going to say everything. These actors on screen are going to show everything that needs to be said. So I don't know how much of the script was just like, oh, this actor does this actor does this. But it like clearly like understood like the script doesn't matter. Like what we say, like if I have to get exposition across, I'm gonna make the actors show it. Which is great. And the directing, was kind of just very quiet, dim, somber. That's a one word I would use to describe this movie. It's somber. And it's a great movie. I loved it. Soul Badge of Approval, 8 out of 10. I would probably do, if I was ranking the movies so far, I would do Arrival, Moonlight, Manchester, if I was ranking them all back to back to back. But that being said, let's get into some spoilers. A movie like this that's sad, it obviously, these kind of movies have to have character deaths. And this movie didn't have that. We got all the deaths are off the screen, and none of it is, oh, so and so died. All the characters died off screen, and the main actor whose brain we're going through isn't prevalent for any of it. And oh god, just the way he's dealing with life and the way I really felt for this Casey Affleck's character. I love his character. Like he might be one of the best characters of this year, just because his emotions, his range, his I don't want to say range because he was kind of one note, but you completely saw his perspective on everything. And, I think that's more like he was perfectly written, and, Casey Affleck's performance was, on point as much as you can be. Any character like this becomes three-dimensional. Whenever you kind of get the backgrounds and see, oh, this is why this character does this, I think they become three-dimensional. The big death, if you want to call it that, was, the past, the fire scenario where his kids died in the fire, and that was like this big reveal, and then he tried to that was huge. It was all so huge, and it was a guy who was just kind of like I don't want to say a douche, but he was just a drunk, not making the best choices family man, and just because he made a couple bad decisions, for getting that thing on the fire thing. And I love the fact that he remembered, did I have that on the fire screen? And then, he was like, oh, whatever. Those are decisions, like, I would make. Like, I would forget the fucking whatever that's so important, and shit would burn down. And I would be punished for it severely. And that's what Casey Affleck, he made, like, a couple bad decisions, and he felt the worst backlash you could feel. His wife left him. He doesn't want to be in this town simply because everyone knows I'm that guy, and I'm unhealthy, and they know everything about him. And now his brother died, so it's like, oh shit. And his brother, people liked his brother. And he's just a fucking handyman that gets shit on all day. That's the main idea of this character. He just gets shit on, and it's awful. And now he has to take care of this fucking douchey kid, who again, he's a douche. He has fucking 2 girlfriends. He's on his phone. Like everyone else in this family, he's just loud and fucking obnoxious. And then as we go throughout the film, he finally decides after an encounter with his wife, he's like, I can't be in a town where I just run into my ex-wife, and we have this huge emotional crisis, and he allows him to live with extended familia. But he still inherits a boat. He doesn't sell the boat, which is great. And it kind of ends on a minimal note. I think that's my biggest problem with the movie. And I understand this movie was raw. It was real. It was mostly just like point A. He hears about this death, funeral. That's the entire movie, and everything that happened in between. So, but at the same time, it wasn't like, oh, they're gonna develop this family bond and they're gonna be great. It kind of just ended on a whatever note, and that's fine because this is a real movie about real characters, and that's a realistic ending. It's fine, but it's still a movie, and I like my endings where things happen, and I'm just fucking immature and stupid. So for me personally, I think just maybe another, this movie's 2 hours and 17 minutes, maybe just shutting off the camera, whatever, maybe they could have had a scene or two more. And even that scene with his wife, it ended on such a realistic, we're not gonna have any closure for this note, which was fine. You could see basically everything we learned about their relationship since the fire happened in that conversation where she said some things, he was being him, and he, after trying to commit suicide, his wife breaks up with him. He's such a martyr character, Casey Affleck, and everything about the movie I loved. I loved the way it was presented. I loved the characters. The kid was a douche. They got the point across. I love that they had the final moment together. I love the little subplots oh, I know where my mom is. And it all got addressed and wrapped up. Him just I have a life here, I can't move, don't make me move. These are real people problems, and it just makes you sad and somber, and the fact that none of it gets wrapped up, that's what happens. So I loved it. There are certain parts in this character that I really just I think anyone can feel something similar to. So, great movie. I had a wonderful time with it. We have a couple more to go to, and then that'll wrap up the movies of 2016. And thank you so much for watching, guys. And with that, I leave you.